Hey everybody, welcome back to my planning notebook. This is Patty, and I like to share videos of things that I'm plotting and planning when it comes to sewing and some knitting, but mostly sewing, and definitely some wardrobe planning. Let's see, today I thought that I would talk about my recent adventures in making fabric and yarn work for me, meaning that in part, I'm talking about removing color from fabrics, and in some cases, I think in a lot of cases, removing color from fabric, removing color from existing garments, and then overdying them or bleaching them, things like that. I've also got a little bit in here on a yarn recycling project that I'm doing because to me, this is all kind of about taking things that you have and making them work better for you. So let's get started. This is a project, one of the most recent ones that I finished. And if you've watched some of my videos before, you know that earlier this spring I got my colors done. And prior to that, and these are my colors, I am a light summer, or I actually got my colors done with Your Color Guru, Your Color, which you can look online to do that. And she uses special phrases. So this is seasonal color analysis, summer, winter, fall, spring. I went through most of my life thinking that I was an autumn because I had red hair, and then eventually thought maybe I was a spring because warm with the red hair but a little bit lighter overall. And then with my hair going blonde, I really just didn't know what colors to wear. Also, last year I played a lot with makeup and realized that I cannot wear warm toned makeup. So it was in my head that I was maybe not as warm toned as I thought. I found out that I'm a light summer. And if these are all the color palettes from Color Guru, some of them I swiped from like screenshots, and I'm still missing Vivid Spring over here. It's up here. There should be a third color, but I don't have it yet. As you can see, so I thought that I was an autumn or a spring, and you could see how warm those colors were. Turns out I'm this summer, although all the summers look very similar, and even winter. Winter and summer are both cool toned if you're not familiar with this. Spring and autumn are both warm toned. And the upshot of this is that my wardrobe didn't work for me anymore. This soft, yeah, no, spring is up here. The Sunlit Spring, I wore a lot of these colors, and this is actually the season that's adjacent to mine, so I probably still can wear some of these colors even though they're a bit warm toned. But a lot of my wardrobe, I had a lot of orange and pinks and limes and lots of ivory, and I needed to switch it up and get lots of you know I like teals and turquoises. I love periwinkle and this wisteria. So I've been kind of on a little project of making things work for me. And this was my most recent dress, and I'm very pleased with the results. So where this purple one was the before, and as you can see, there's no purples like that in my palette, although I bet if we go over to Sunlit Spring, this is kind of like it. This is totally like it. So as you can see, I just had a lot of the wrong colors, and I swapped it up for this beautiful teal color. So let's see. I forgot which order I put these pictures in. So, oh, it's chronological. So this started out with, and this is funny. Let me show you guys something horrifying. Just look at this picture. Ha 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 ha. It's the most flattering picture I have ever taken of myself. It was really late at night when I took that. Anyway, so earlier this spring, I got in a bunch of fabrics and was in the midst of sewing a wardrobe when I got my colors done and realized that a lot of them didn't work for me. And in particular, if we look at this, I'm going to put it on Do Not Disturb so we don't see my Instagram messages distracting us. This stack of fabric, this fabric right here, and this one right here, the plaid, they are both 100% silk, and they were really bad on me, which, I mean, I always thought the avocado green looked good on me. And then look at, I mean, this really isn't a great picture and it's bad lighting and my hair's a mess. And I think I probably have mascara rubbed under my eyes. But this is not a good color for me. And um, when I got my colors redone, I had all these fabrics and I didn't really want to throw them away or give them away. I mean, I don't have any sewing friends to give them to close by, but I didn't want to waste them because this is a beautiful pattern silk, as you can see, and this is kind of a cool woven silk that feels, it almost feels like raw silk, the plaid. So I decided that since I knew I didn't want to wear those colors and I didn't really have anybody to give it to who lives close. I don't have any friends who live close to me who make clothes. And I didn't really want to just give it to the thrift store because, you know, who knows what would happen to it. It was a pretty expensive fabric and I loved it. I decided to see what I could do. And I was aware that Rit makes a color remover, which I'd seen before. It comes in a pink box and I think they actually sell the liquid form too. And I thought, well, I'll try to use it. It's a bleach alternative. And this picture just shows the before and after of these two silks. So this over here is the before and this is after. Here's before and here's after. So for this, I don't remember the details, but I think I just processed them probably together in the same pot. So you put it, you fill up, I have a stock pot that I use. You fill it up with water, you get it hot on the stove till it's just about to boil. Then you pour in the powder remover. It smells really bad. Like it reminds me of a perm, like if you're getting a perm in your hair. There's something in it that smells bad and it sticks in the fabric. It's hard to get the smell out. But you just start the water boiling, you put in the powder, then you put in your fabric and you stir it. In my experience, and I can maybe talk about, I have a few projects to show you, but some fabrics, silk especially, the lighter silks, those colors seem to lift out pretty quickly and very well. When you're doing color remover, it won't take the color out of polyester thread, which is important to remember if you're working with a sewn garment that already has some thread in it. And I have some detailed pictures to show you in a little bit on that. And then I also had trouble. I tried removing the color from, I had a rayon shirt. It is this particular kind of like made in India, very heavily dyed style of clothing that if I showed you, you'd totally recognize it. But it was black and I didn't want to wear black and I decided to try to remove the color. And black generally turns to orange when you use the color remover, which I knew and I thought maybe I could work with overdying it. But that piece just, the color wouldn't come out evenly. I didn't take any pictures, but where the folds and the seams were, it stayed really dark and close to black. It just looked really bad. So I definitely, if this is something you're going to play with, removing the color from the fabric is much easier than removing from the garments, although you can do some cool things if you're using it on a garment, which again, I have some pictures to show you, but in general, if you can remove it from the fabric, remove it from the fabric. The other thing I learned with the removing color is that it's good to keep it moving and it works better where it's hotter. So you don't just, stir the pot, clockwise or counterclockwise. You kind of need to stir from the bottom to the top because if you let part of the fabric, especially if you have more fabric in the pot, so it's harder to stir around, the bottom part that's touching the burner will be much, much lighter than the top part. And then the other thing is it's important to know is that it doesn't work well on patterns. So I have an example of what to show you on that. And I also want to say, if you are interested in dyeing or especially removing color and adding color, go to Facebook and join this group, Kantha Bay Besties. So Kantha is a particular textile from India. Kantha Bay is a clothing company that the clothes are made from Kantha quilts. And this group is a group of, it's like a fan group and there's a lot of buying and reselling, but it's really just, even if this isn't your style of clothing, go join this group because it is like the nicest Facebook group I've ever been in. Everybody's so supportive and cool and awesome. But a lot of people work with removing color and overdying these cantha pieces because they want them to be in different colors. So this is a really good group to learn about overdying and removing dye if you're interested in that type of thing. I learned a lot in there. So anyway, this was my first experiment. I removed the color from these silks. I was pretty happy with the results, although they are a warmer silk than I really wanted. I wanted more white, and it's a little bit more on the ivory side, but very beautiful. And I just wanted to show you, I just kind of followed up, and taking pictures of fabric is really hard to get good color, and in particular lighter color, lighter neutrals. Like I can't see the difference in pictures between sage and light gray and a light beige. They all look the same to me. But this fabric here, this picture, is a picture of this fabric, which I started as a plaid, removed, and it was kind of almost a pinkish. There's still a lot of warm tones in it. It was more warm than what I wanted to wear. So I over dyed that with Rit Pearl Gray dye. And if you are like me and you have cool coloring, this is a good one to have on hand. Pearl Gray is got a lot of blue in it. And I think you can kind of see, even in these pictures, how warm the before was compared to after. It's almost a light blue. So it's gray, but definitely grayish blue. So it's good to offset some warm tones. With the other piece of silk, the embroidered silk, I made a dress. This is actually the wrong side. Let me see if I have the other side. I think I do. So this is a dress that is, here we go. This is Ogden Cami hack dress. So it is made, the top is the Ogden Cami tank, which is very popular. Just I just use the lining pieces if you have that pattern to make a bodice. And then it's just a simple gathered skirt. So you can see this is, well, not super detailed. But you can see I got the color from, well, let's go back to our original picture. This was the before color. This kind of pea green. And this is the after color. And I think it's just a much better color. It's still a little bit warmer than I'd like. I wanted it to be more white, but I was really pleased. Great save for the fabric. And then this other piece that I recolored, I just dyed to be that gray, and I'm using it for the underlayer in a new metamorphic dress with blue and white toile as the other layers. So that was my first real experiment in undying. This was my next experiment, and it's kind of fun. This is a Torrid maxi dress. I have a bunch of these. I wear them a lot. I got this one, and then I got it, and actually the color, I believe, is on my card or close to my, yeah, it's probably, I'm just going to grab my color card and bring it with us. So it's, this Kelly green color is probably okay for light summers. It's really close to this aloe color. This is a little bit, had a little bit more blue in it. And I didn't hate it. I just didn't think it was great. I thought it was really dark on me, and I wanted it lighter. So I decided to just use the color remover. Now, this one was a lot harder to do than my first project. So when I did the silk, I had about 3 yards of each. It was really lightweight silk, super easy to do that. And I use a stock pot that's not very big, probably a 6 quart, maybe 8 quart. It's probably an 8 quart stock pot. And it's a nonstick, which it shouldn't be, but it's what I have and what I use for my dyeing projects. So it is what it is. So with this one, there's a lot of fabric in this maxi dress. This skirt is very, very flared. So I've made this by cutting apart a pattern and using that as a pattern. And it's probably 5 yards of fabric. So it did not, and it's lined too. So that's in there too. So it did not, it's not very even. It's kind of hard to see in these pictures, but it's faded almost to yellow in these areas, and then it kept a lot of its color, the darker blue, like some blue down near the hem. It's a little splotchy across the bust, a little splotchy here. It almost is a tie-dyed effect. So I would have preferred it to be a little bit more even, but I think the end color is really beautiful. And again, I know these pictures are so unfair because this is, my before pictures are taken inside the house in bad lighting and after is outside in better lighting. But I think that the result, I was happy I did it. I got a lot of wear out of this dress this year. So I was happy I did this color removal and it made it work better for me. Not that the before was bad. I just like the after better. That brings us to my most recent project. So once I got my colors done, I either recolored or sold or gave away everything in my wardrobe that didn't work with my new palette, except this outfit. I'm having a really hard time operating my if you're curious, because people sometimes ask, I'm doing this using Goodnotes. This is my kind of project notebook that I'm working in, where I do a lot of my plotting, and so I'm just kind of, it's like whiteboard for sewing plotting, right? So this is my colors, and here is the outfit. And I'm gonna just cut this and paste it so it's on the top so we can look at it. So this outfit is a sugar slip. That's what this dress is. And that's something I made. It's a Sew Givens pattern. And it's kind of hard to see in this picture, but it's a purple, it's a darker purple and a hot pink gingham. And it's 100% silk, and I really have liked this slip dress. When I got the fabric, I was in love with it. When I made the dress, I loved it. I mean, I really have gone for bright colors traditionally. And I didn't hate this dress, but it really is something I like to wear as part of an outfit. And I found that after the summer with my new wardrobe and all the new colors, I just wasn't wearing it because it doesn't go with anything in my wardrobe. So I decided it was time to do something about it. I kept that hanging in my closet, as well as this skirt, which is a skirt that I made. It's just a fun purple skirt, and I just love it. And I love this outfit, and but I wasn't wearing it. And the same goes for the sweater, which we'll talk about in a few minutes, which is, we'll talk about that in a minute. So I decided to do the color removal on the slip dress. And I was a little concerned because of a few things. First of all, I thought the purple would move to an orange. That happens with a lot of colors. Browns, blacks, dark purples, all kind of fade towards orange. And I didn't want to wear orange. So I needed to get it to a color that would work if I overdyed it. Also, I assumed that the pattern would stay somewhat intact, the gingham pattern, because that happens when you remove color. The patterns just don't 100% go away. Finally, this dress is sewn with a hot pink thread, and there's some serging, so it's really obvious. Oh, sorry about that. I had an alarm go off. So it's really obvious where the hot pink thread is, and I have detailed pictures to show you. So I knew that these were some concerns I needed to think about. In addition, I kind of was seeing this as an experiment because I wanted to have a fun experiment to work on. And I live in a smaller town. It's not tiny. We only have 20,000 people. So there's only a couple places to get dye nearby, and there's not a lot of options. Basically, it's Walmart and whatever colors they have. So when I was in Walmart, I took a look and they had Teal, the Rit Teal dye, and I got the liquid type for this experiment. I don't really see a difference between the liquid and the powder type. I mean, I have better results with the liquid type. I think. I'm thinking of when I've used liquid, but overall, I don't know. I don't know if it really matters that much. So I decided to try Teal because I thought that Teal would work with the parameters that I had. And it did. So for this project, I soaked the slip dress, and I also did the color removal from the cardigan at the same time, all in the same vat. I soaked them for 20 minutes on the stove with the Rit color remover, stirring. I think I stirred for about 10 minutes and let it sit for 10 minutes where I just stirred occasionally. And then I took it out. You rinse it. I usually put it right into the sink and then rinse it with, you start with hot water and then move to cool water, and then you put it right into the wash. So that's a process I went through, and I think the result is just beautiful. This is the result. Somebody on Facebook called it a mermaid dress, which 100% agree. I was really happy with how it came out. I had a little bit of trouble because this is silk. I didn't want to dry it. I could have. And I actually would have dried it if I lived in a different house, but we have a really unusual washing machine. It's a washing machine and a dryer, and it's all in one. I think they're more popular in Europe than they are here in the United States. They're not very common here, but they save space, and the drying is done using really fast agitation and steam. So it's kind of weird when you take your clothes out of the dryer, they still feel like they're wet, and then they kind of magically dry in a few minutes. But it's a really aggressive dry cycle, so it's not great for delicate fabrics at all. So I probably would have stuck it in the dryer, and probably even with a dryer sheet. We generally don't use fabric softeners or dryer sheets in our house for environmental concerns, but I probably would have used a dryer sheet because the fabric has a bit of the smell from the color remover, and then dye also has a smell. It's not, to me, it's not as unpleasant as the color remover smell, but it's a smell. I did wash it. We use Zum Patchouli laundry detergent. It's one of those clean detergents that doesn't have a lot of ingredients in it. It just uses essential oils. It still has a smell I don't love. I might hang it outside for a little bit or something like that. So I have some before and afters here. So this is one of the before outfits, which I thought was great. And this is an after outfit. In terms of the color, I really think I really think the teal is so much prettier on me. So I loved the before, and I know some people on Facebook have been a little bit like, oh, I love the before, and I get that. I mean, I get that purple and pink silk is awesome. It just wasn't awesome for me, and it wasn't something I was wearing in my wardrobe. So that is a win, and I love this. I love this project. This is a little awkwardly posed, but I thought it was super fun how well my nails matched. But I actually was trying to get in this picture. You can see what I was talking about here, where the hot pink thread still shows and the gingham pattern still shows. This didn't go as orange as I thought. I really thought that it was going to be like a different, almost like rusty orange color. The pink squares went almost white, and the purple squares went really gold. When I took the dress out of the solution, it almost looked yellow. And then I did wash it, and it lightened up a bit in the wash, but it was pretty gold. So not as orange as I thought, but it definitely shows through the pattern. And I just kind of remembered I was going to mention, tips as I think of them. And one is I don't have any pictures, or, I'll talk about this with the sweater. So just forget that. Here's another picture where you can really see how the pink, since on the original, the color blended in so well, I just didn't even pay attention to where the seams were. I didn't care that a serged seam was showing, but in the dyed one, you can really see the pink is shown off. So let's talk about the sweater. The sweater I knew was going to be probably a failure. And this is kind of weird if you've known me for a while, this chartreuse sweater has been one of my prized possessions forever. It has been a favorite color of mine for years and years, like since I started sewing. And I remember when I found, this is an upcycled make. It started life as a crew neck sweater. I used to work in an office across the street from a mall that had a Land's End outlet store where a lot of catalog returns would go. So it was a great place to get cashmere. And I almost died because I walked in one day and there was this cashmere crew neck sweater in my favorite color. Now, I don't love cashmere, or I'm sorry, I love cashmere. I don't love crew necks and I don't wear them at all. So I kept it hanging in my closet for a while and then I remade it into a cardigan, which I did love. But this is really an unpleasant color for me. It's one of the ones that I really need to stay away from. So again, I don't feel like with the color analysis, it's, rules I must follow. It's more that I kept this one because I was like, no, I love this color. I could never give it up. But then realized I'll never wear it because it doesn't match anything in my wardrobe. So I thought rather than donating it, I would try to make it work for me. It did not work. Actually, the color is beautiful. I think the finish, this is what it looks like. I think the color is beautiful and I wish it worked. But the combination of boiling it, or you do the color remover on the stove, and it's recommended to keep it at 200, but I know I went over boiling a couple times. And then when you dye in really hot water. So the combination of that followed by the wash cycle, and I did 2 wash cycles, one after the color remover, one after the dye job. It just felted up the fabric. In fact, I tried to take a picture because you can kind of see, well, maybe you can't see. The fabric actually looks softer in this picture than it really is. It really balled up. There's a lot of pilling, and it's just a really hard fabric now. It's not nice. It also shrunk quite a bit. It looks bigger on the hanger than it is, but I don't think. I mean, the arms are tight, so I haven't really even tried to get it on because I just don't think it would be nice, but it just doesn't fit. But I did keep it to show you guys a picture. So that was a fail. If you're going to try to work with cashmere, don't use hot water because it felted it up and made it very unpleasant. So learning process. Now, speaking of learning process, here was another thing that happened. I bought this, actually I was in the middle. Well, no, I wasn't in the middle. I got my colors done, and very soon after, like within the week, I bought yarn for a knitting project to knit this Ursina sweater, and it hadn't really soaked in what I was doing. And there's a monumental shift in my colors in the sense that for years, I have gone for oatmeal and beige and camel as sort of my neutrals. I thought those were the right neutrals for me. Although I did also know over the years that gray looked good on me. And that was really confirmed when I got my colors done. When you look at the color card for a light summer, which I've now lost that, there are no real beiges. There's this khaki and maybe taupe, but everything else is a gray kind of neutral. So I kind of knee-jerk when I went to get the yarn for this project, I just got this hummus color because it was a good basic neutral. And like with all these projects, I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it. And I was like, I really wish this was gray. So I decided to over dye it. And my first attempt, or it wasn't my first attempt, but I was aware of the pearl gray because I had already used it by then. But I didn't think a gray blue would look that good over taupe, the beige color. So I decided to try, I wanted to get something that had no blue tones in it. So I got charcoal gray, which is a dark gray. And I don't have any pictures. I don't know why I did take pictures. But it was hard to get the dye even. And I have read that Rit gray dyes are hard to get even. Like other people have had that experience. Also, the result made basically a dark brown sweater. Like it was cool tone brown, but the charcoal with the beige just went brown. It didn't go gray. So I didn't like that, and it didn't look good. Like it didn't look good. So I again thought it was a loss. My husband thought it was a loss. He was actually so surprised when he came home and he was like, "Is that the sweater?" So I decided, since I thought it was a loss anyway, I would do everything I could to try to salvage it. So I got a box of Rit Color Remover, and I soaked the sweater for 20 minutes. That's the length of time that you're supposed to do it. I think you could go over, but I don't think it would do anymore. And I got it close. It was a really kind of gold color, but there was still some splotching from the previous dyes, and I didn't love it. I knew I wouldn't wear it. It was kind of a dingy looking color, almost not very flattering for me, and it wasn't even. I could still see some of the original dye. And I think that I maybe was home without a car, so I just decided to go for broke. I didn't have any more color remover. You can do more than one round of color removing to get more color out. I only had bleach. So I filled up my sink with bleach, and then I added probably like a cup of bleach to 3 to 5 gallons of water. I did look at proportions for bleaching, and I saw a lot of recommendations of 3 to 1. I was I was I was like maybe 20 to 1 with my bleach. It was a really light bleach solution, but it took out a lot of the color. It really got it a lot more even. There's a few splotchy places that I can see, but nobody else in the world could see. This isn't a great picture. It's so pixelated. The result is a little bit more yellow than I like. Although lemon chiffon is one of my colors, so I actually think it looks good on me. It's just not quite what I was imagining. I got a yellow sweater, not a white sweater. Here, I grabbed this picture because I thought it really showed. This is an ivory linen, and my door is white, so you can kind of see the gradations of yellow. And this is really kind of a yellowish ivory color. But here's another before and after. I did kind of restage the pictures. If you follow me on Instagram, you may have already seen this, where I had posted a few pictures when I finished the original, and then I put on the same outfits and posted when I did the recolor. So this makes me thrilled. This, even though I'm a little bit like, oh, it's pale yellow, not white, I feel that way all the time about anything that isn't white. So I think this is a great neutral. I've already worn it. I'm struggling a little bit because the bleach smell is still in the yarn. I'm not sure if it'll come back out, and I'm hesitant to mess with the sweater anymore in terms of putting it through a load in the wash. The yarn is a 80/20 cotton linen blend, and I feel like I've beat it up so much already. So very happy with that project. What's next? Ooh, here is the next project, and I think, yeah, that's it. So that's my dyeing projects thus far. To kind of wrap it up, I mean, there's the Dharma Trading Company is known for having a lot of you can Google Dharma Trading. They sell a lot of dyes, higher end dyes than Rit dyes, and they sell a lot of undyed fibers like silks and linens and things like that, so you can do your own dyeing if you're interested in that. But it doesn't have to be that hard. I honestly get overwhelmed every time I go and I look at that site. It's just, there's a lot there. So I haven't really gotten into that. If you just want to start playing with it, Rit dye works. I mean, you have to be careful. Read the instructions. There are different dyes for different fiber types. I mostly work with natural fibers, so I can use the classic dye. They also make a dye that's more appropriate for synthetic fibers, polyesters and things like that. Also, there's different ways to fix your dye if you're dyeing. You can buy a fixative from Rit. Also, you add things into the dye when you're mixing it, and for animal-based fibers, so silk and wool, you add in vinegar, and if it's a plant-based fiber like cotton or linen, you add in salt. I don't know what you do if it was a blend. You put in a little dish soap to help it. Yeah, it's just, it's been a fun experiment, but that's the thing. It's an experiment. I think before I started this, I wanted to find something that would tell me exactly what to do, but every fabric, every dye bath you make, every, temperature you keep the color remover in, they all change the project. So you can't really get a here's how to do it thing. You just have to start playing with it and get a sense for how it works. The other thing that I was going to mention with the sweater, one of the reasons the charcoal dye failed so badly, I think, is because I did the color remover with the sweater and then I immediately dyed it. I didn't wash it in between the color remover and the dye. And I think like I said, I didn't take pictures, but it was really uneven, the dye job. It was a gray, which I've read that Rit gray dyes, like I said, can be a little bit temperamental. But I think that I just had a lot of color remover still in the fabric, and that's why the second dye job didn't take. So that's another thing, if you're going to color remove, then wash your fabric, then do your dyeing. And also, I bleached this sweater because, like I said, I was just experimenting. I had it at home. But bleach is really hard on fibers. And if you're planning on ever re-dyeing it, you probably don't want to use bleach because bleach does things to fibers, which makes dye not take. I knew that if I could get this just to a light enough color that I would wear it, the sweater, that I'd be happy. So I was okay using bleach because I don't plan on ever dyeing it again. So the next last thing that I just wanted to share, and you've seen this if you follow me on Instagram, is in the spirit of making things work for you. I have been working on a yarn reuse project. So I bought this sweater on the clearance rack at Old Navy a month or two ago for $6.99, and I love the color. Love it. And I love that it's $6.99. It's a nice cotton blend. So it's a pretty nice fiber. It's from Old Navy. What I didn't love so much is overall the style hits me mid hip. It's not I either like my sweaters longer or cropped. Also, I loved the color so much and the price that I bought it, even though it is a size 4X. And if you're familiar with Old Navy and just in general, I wear probably a ready to wear size 20 or 22. But my shoulders are really narrow. So if I'm just buying a cardigan that's not buttoning down the front, that's just a cardigan, I can wear a size large in most brands. So 4X was a little bit big for me, and I don't mind oversized. I kind of like oversized sometimes, but it was huge. And I tried to wear it once, I think, and I knew that I wouldn't wear it. And I was like, well, I really want the yarn. So I decided to reuse it. So I spent a whole Sunday, I mean, seriously, it was a whole Sunday, unraveling the sweater. And you just kind of, if you don't knit yourself, it might be, well, if you don't knit yourself, why would you be doing this? But you start unraveling where they stopped knitting. So you need to figure that out, but it's kind of straightforward. Like for most sweaters, it's the hem where you stop knitting. It just depends on how it was knit. And you just kind of clip and you get it started and you start unraveling. This sweater was kind of interesting because the sleeves and the back were all double knit. They had 2 strands of yarn, and the strands of yarn were like double strand twisted, and they were double knit. But then the front pieces were not double knit, which I just thought was really interesting. But the double knit part of it made it really hard to unravel because I kind of had to unravel in 2 different directions, and it took forever. I wrapped the yarn around, I had a moleskin journal, so like a book. I wrapped it around the book to create my skein. I had so much to unwind. It would have been better to unwrap it around my arm, like, from my hand to my elbow to get a nice long hank. But I knew that it was a lot of unraveling and that would have been really difficult and hurt my arm, and I just wasn't there for that. One thing that I did learn, if you're a knitter, when you get a hank of yarn that they usually are, secured a lot of times in a kind of a figure 8. I just tied 1 string around one side because I knew I could be careful with them, and 1 string around the other side. Midway through unraveling, initially I cut 2 pieces of string and tied those on each side. But midway through, I started to do 1 separate piece on here, and then on the other side, I kind of use the end to wrap around itself. I definitely recommend doing that because it's really hard, because then it's better to, when it comes to winding these into a ball, it's best to start with the end that you ended with, if you know what I mean. So if you bind it off this way, you know what end to start with, and it makes it easier to unravel the hanks. I don't know if I explained that very well, but do that, trust me. So once I finished this, I had quite a bit of yarn. This is a pretty big bowl. Like, this is the popcorn, giant bowl. I had a lot of yarn. And I had read everywhere that if you're going to try to recycle yarn, you should wash it and then dry it while it's stretching it. I did ask about it on Facebook to see what people thought, because I know that I have frogged projects in the back, and in the back of history, in time, in previous moments of my life. I have tried this washing and stretching with hanks thing, and it didn't work. Like, it still stayed kinky. So I was like, do I really need to do this? And the other reason I read that it's important to wash the yarn is to remove any soils or any treatment or anything like that. Since this was a brand new sweater, I wasn't that concerned. But some of my friends on Facebook who are more experienced knitters than me, they said to do it. And one of the reasons I was reluctant is I couldn't think of how to do it, like how to hang it and how to attach a weight. Somebody recommended using hangers, so this is what I set up. Here's what I'll say. You can kind of see here, this one is sort of stretched out. That's a really small hank. I think it might have been at the end. I tried to do bigger hanks of yarn just so I don't have a lot of joins in my project. I don't like the way that looks. So with the smaller hanks, the washing and the stretching kind of worked. It made the yarn less kinky. On the really big hanks of yarn, it didn't really do much. It was still like ramen noodle curly. So I don't know if I do this again. These took like 3 or 4 days to dry. It was just kind of a pain every time we wanted to take a shower. It was just a pain, and I don't know if it did that much. So that was my experience. The final step of this is, since I had so much yarn, my husband's usually game to hold, a hank of yarn if I'm winding a ball for, a skein or two to make some socks. But I didn't think that he would be up for holding these tiny little hanks, just fit them over his hands. And for the time that it would take to wind all of these. So I, wanted to be able to do it by myself and not need him. So I went ahead and I bought a ball winder. Finally bought a ball winder on Amazon, and I can maybe show you the one I got, because I would totally get it and it wasn't very much. It's a ball winder. There it is. I got this one, the Knit Picks ball winder. That's purple, $20. Easy to put together. It has this little clamp there, right there, that you put on a table. I use a little lap desk for my laptop. So I just attached it to my lap desk, and I was able to do everything on my lap. And I wound all the balls of yarn, and it went really well. And you can kind of see how they're still pretty wavy. Some more than others. But the tension of, and you can see like in here, the tension of winding the ball also straightened the yarn quite a bit. So I don't know. It wasn't terrible that I did the washing, but I just don't know if it did much of anything. So that's that project. Now I'm trying to decide what to make. I think I'm going to do a Be Thankful cardigan. Be Thankful cardigan. Oops. How do you spell Be Thankful? Cardigan. Are there 2 L's in that? Yeah, so I'm thinking this is what I'm going to make. I'm not 100% sure, and I'm not great at guesstimating yardage. But I figure this sweater that I started with was a size 4X, really big and pretty long on me. It went like down to my thighs. So the one I'm looking at, I'll make smaller. It does have really big sleeves, but it's a cropped sweater, so I think I have enough yarn. My way of guesstimating yarn for a project is to squish all the yarn and try to imagine that I'm squishing what I want to make and see if it feels the same amount of squishiness. Like, ooh, this feels like a pair of socks. Okay, I've got enough to make a pair of socks. So it's kind of like playing yarn chicken with my yarn stash, but I'll be starting that soon. Right now, I'm finishing up a pair of socks for my husband, but next up is probably a cardigan project. So these are all the ways that I've been working with reusing yarn, dyeing yarn that I didn't like the color of, removing color and re-dyeing fabrics. It's been pretty fun, and I hope this was helpful for you if you're considering doing anything like this for your projects. I really love being able to get things the color I want them, and it's kind of like when you learn how to sew and knit, you're excited because you can make exactly what you want, except that you're at the whim of the fabric store or the yarn shop. So this gives just a little bit more flexibility in being able to create exactly what you want, or to adjust what you already have. One last note on this: almost everything that I've been working with is a natural fiber. So cotton, linen, silk, wool, cashmere, which I guess is wool too. So I think that working with man-made fibers on the dye side is a lot more difficult, and I wouldn't be as excited to try it. But if you are like me and you like working with natural fibers, they are a little bit more amenable to bleaching and dyeing and all those things. So I hope this was helpful. If it was, go ahead, follow me. I've been trying to put up videos. I've been a little bit on hiatus lately, but I'll be coming back to it. And I love to share my planning notebook with you guys. And have a great day.